used to be the go-to plant for blues. And and this woad are what are called biennial plants, which means that they grow the first year and they particularly produce leaves, but they don't flower. The second year they're going to flower. Now you're using the leaves of the Japanese indigo, and you're using the flower or the leaves from the woad. The first year leaves on the woad will make blue, but it'll be a lighter blue. Each successive year that the plant lives, your leaf color is going to produce a darker blue until it gets to its sort of natural end blue state. The Japanese indigo, it's easy to grow in this area. It's a bushy plant, and you can transplant outside, but it's not a perennial in this zone. So, and the seeds are not terribly easy to come by. So all throughout the year, you're clipping leaves, and there's a specific way I'll talk about clipping those leaves, and you're picking off those flowers. Well, when you're ready in the fall, bring a couple of those plants inside and let them go to seed. But then you actually wind up using tweezers to pull the seeds out of the seed pods on that, and then you start them again in the spring. When you're harvesting the leaves, you start at the base of the plant. So you can plant it out. It likes its alkali soil. You're going to start at the base of the plant, and you're going to take about half of the leaves off the whole way up the plant. And then 2 weeks later, you're going to go out and you're going to take about half of the leaves off. This is what makes it continue to produce the leaves that you're going to use for your dye throughout the year.
And how do you save the leaves then?
You can dry them. You can make your.
Because I grew a whole patch of it, and I harvested all at one time, and I barely got baby blue 1 4-ounce skein of yarn out of a whole patch.
And that's the first year.
If you do that, that's.
And the later in the season, the darker the blue is going to be. And you don't want to harvest them too early in the year. What you want to do is you want to pinch the leaf and see if you get any blue juice out of it. So don't pick them until you're getting blue juice out of it. But again, do that continuous harvesting so that you're getting enough of the leaf to be worth it. Now, indigo and woad both are the same kind of vat dyes. You know, with indigo, you have to put it in the pot, you have to keep it from oxidizing, you got to use this, you got to use that. Woad is the same way. And the 3 different kinds of vats, or the 3 kinds of the hydrosulfite vat with washing soda and sodium hydrosulfite to remove the oxygen. There's also a yeast vat, and my favorite, which is the urine vat. Save your pee.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, they did that in the Middle East a lot. They used urine as a
because the ammonium, you know, your urine's ammonia.
Producing
What you need.
That's
Yeah,
pretty.
exactly what it smells like if you use the other chemicals.
Right. It smells like you've been peeing. So those 2 plants. Now, the woad plant is one of the plants that is a perennial, and it is not one that you want to. It forms leaves in year 1 and flowers in year 2. Now, it has a very long taproot. So if you're planting woad, you want to direct sow it or transplant it no later than when it's about 3 or 4 inches tall. Some of these I say don't transplant until they're 6 inches tall, but the woad, you want to make sure that the taproot hasn't sort of busted out the bottom of your container. And that taproot's going to go down as tall as the plant is above the ground, and so it does not transplant well. Some of these plants you divide, like the daylilies. You're going to divide them and move them. That's how you propagate them. Others, as I said, like madder and anything that you want to be a bushier plant, you're going to lay those lower leaves under the ground. And I use landscape staples to hold them down under the ground, and then that's going to grow roots. Because with the madder, the more roots, the better.
I was wondering about that. I have madder now, and it's just crawling all over the ground.
Right.
But there's
cover up some of it with some soil, then and you get more roots.
You'll get more roots. And make sure when you're harvesting the roots, don't harvest the roots until the plant's at least 2 years old. And you can sort of have, with the madder, you can sort of have a moving garden where your older plants that you're going to harvest are here and your younger plants, and so as you're harvesting it, you're moving in on it and just start again at the other end. You're going to want to dig fairly deep. You're going to want to get all of the roots out, and you're going to want to wash them and dry them, and then you're going to want to sort of scrub them because there's little flecks on the surface after they're dried. There's little flecks on the surface that are going to add tans or browns to your madder. So you want the root to be not quite peeled, but as as much of that excess little dried flaky stuff off of it. It's going to look like a shriveled up dried stick, and then you're going to hydrate it. You can get a lot, the range of colors for madder. I originally thought that madder always produced that scarlet. Well, it produces a coral, it produces the scarlet, it produces a solid true red, it produces all the way up through pinks and browns. Madder is one that's really sensitive to temperature in the dye vat. When we were dyeing, doing the natural dyeing,
we were too busy talking.
We were too busy
away
talking,
and
and we didn't have good control over the heat because we were just using propane, outdoor propane camping things, which didn't have a whole lot of temperature regulation on, and we actually boiled the wool. And so we wound up with this
rusty
pinky brown, rusty brown. It's an okay color, not my favorite, but keeping that temperature down below even a simmer, so you don't want to let it get high.
Is it 140 or
180. You can go as high as 180, but you don't want to go anything over 180 in order to get the colors. Now, whether you're going to get that orangey color or whether you're going to get the redder color. And sometimes people really don't like that orange, so they do the first dye bath, they get that orange, they throw that away and keep cooking. So once they've got that orange out, which typically is going to come from all those little flecks on the surface of the root that you didn't think to clear off because that's going to be your tan and your yellows coming into your reds, then you're going to get a truer red. What other guys I wanted to talk about? So madder can make red orange, red ruby, or red brown. Now, one of the other
She had nice color out of the pokeberry too. I have not seen like an orangey red out of
now
pokeberry
one of
like
the
that. I heard it's not
one
bad.
of the dye books, or maybe it was one of the online sites. She actually that this person can make pokeberry permanent because that one of the person who came last year to talk about natural dyeing. She said nobody can figure out how to make pokeberry permanent, and it's either in one of these books because when I was reviewing for today I was reading over it again, but and
What did they say made it permanent?
more acid, lots and lots of acid, and time in the dye bath, but it didn't make an orangey, it made a purpley.
Which is really what you hope for.
Yeah.
I would think.
I would think, I mean, you look at all that pokeberry and you look at it on your hands and you think this stuff has got a stain.
That's the same as if you spill red wine on your clothes, you end up with gray.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Not husks, on the other hand.
right, now they last forever on your hands and they last forever on your, but that's not something that we're gonna grow in our garden. Now, I've got walnut trees on the farm and we collect our husks every year, so. But that's,
And if anyone ever needs more, my brother has a whole farm full of them, and he would be happy to let you to come get them.
come collect them.
Uh-huh. In Washington County.
so that's about all I wanted to talk about in terms of preparing your garden. As I said, there's some annuals, there's some biennials, and there's some perennials. If you can afford to set aside some space, it's really worth it because it does take a lot of dye stuff. The other good source for especially things like marigolds, you see all these plantings along the road, this thing is maintained by so-and-so. If you call that so-and-so and say, when are you going to pull those plants, I will take them, meet them with your black plastic garbage bags, and you can get, tons of, especially marigolds and some of those flowers that make the beautiful colors, and that you don't have enough room to make enough marigolds, because it's gonna take a bushel of marigolds to produce a really rich dye. So some of these things, to do like 16 ounces of yarn, so you wanna do a pound of yarn so that you can have a project that's made, you're talking about 10 pounds of plant material, or 15 pounds of plant material. So, think about the places that you can go that are just gonna throw them away anyway, or they're gonna compost them anyway, and get them for free. That's it.
What about lavender?